President, please be seated. The court is now in session, and the floor is given to the Deputy Co-Prosecutor to resume the questioning to the witness. You may proceed.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let's be clear about how we're going to divide time. I think I will be working until the 2:45 break, and then for the 15 remaining minutes, the civil lawyer parties will put their questions to the witness. So, witness, before the break, you were telling us about Ying So-pi, who was the person in charge of arrests in Sector 21 in the East Zone. Do you know if the people who were arrested by Ying So-pi were sometimes transferred to Phnom Penh?
I do not know about that. I do not know where people were sent to.
When your father was the secretary of Sector 21, who was his deputy then?
Paul.
Can you tell us if this is my Paul?
My Paul.
Do you know which duties my Pope performed after having left Sector 21? And in particular, if he worked in rubber plantations in the East Zone?
He went to the rubber plantation.
Well, on the case file, there is a document E3/1563. These are the S21 confessions of Pech, P-E-C-H, Pon, P-H-O-R-N, alias Maipo, who was the head of the communications infrastructure in the rubber plantations of the East Zone. And the first page of the document bears the title in Khmer 00175121 is the ERN, French 00962767.
President, you were speaking very fast when reading EON numbers, so please repeat EON numbers once again.
Bien sûr.
Of course, Mr. President. Khmer 00175121. French 00962767. English 00827894. So the document in itself dates back to 27 July 1977, so to say way before 28 May 1978. Do you remember if this person was arrested and approximately when was he arrested?
President, please hold on. Mr. Witness, you may proceed now.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I simply would like to object in a general way regarding the way the questions are being put. Up until now, the co-prosecutor has been focusing essentially on dates, which are already part of a list, and then he's asking the witness to comment. So I wouldn't object if the question was phrased in a different way. That is, say, questions on the date, and to check if the witness remembers, and then we can look at the document. But here, the opposite method is without any interest. Response. Indeed, I should have put a few questions before, which I forgot to put. So notwithstanding the document I mentioned, do you know if my Po, once he was working at the rubber plantations, was arrested? And if that is the case, when approximately?
I do not know about that. Thank you.
Well, to add to the confession document I spoke about, for the record, this document is E3/2285, which is a list from S21 titled Names of the Prisoners Who Were Smashed on 9 December 1977. And at number 207, in this list, at the Khmer page 00009299, English 00873624, we find the name Pekpon alias Mai Chu. Maipo, probably from the East Zone, who was the head of telecommunications in the rubber plantations, entered S21 on 1 June 1977. I have one or two questions now regarding some of your father's colleagues, or rather cadres from Sector 21. So who were the different district chiefs in Sector 21 in 1977? That is to say, way before 25 May 1978. Do you remember the names of the different district chiefs?
I cannot recall all the names.
Peut-être que
maybe your recollections were fresher in 2009 when you were interviewed, but let me read out what you said at answer 47 of WRI E3/5531. You said the following: I remember that before 25 May 1978, the chief of Krochma district was called Pa, P-H-A, and of the Shlong district was called Chom Savat, Chom, C-H-H-O-A-M, and of the Danbei district, Hor, H-O-R, and of Tabong Khmum district was called Sat Boon, S-A, and Boon, B-U-N. The chief of Mehmet district was Kong Kia, and the former chief of Tok Chrau district was Talak, and later Tachun, C-H-H-U-N. That is, the chief of Tramom district was Sreng, S-R-E-N-G, and of Pim Chiling district was Bo, B-A-U. So, witness, among these different district chiefs of Sector 21, do you know if some of them were arrested before the major purges of 25 May 1978?
I cannot recall when they were arrested, but there were the names you mentioned. Thank you.
Tout à l'heure, vous...
Earlier, you told us that during the major purges, people were arrested because they were suspected of colluding with the Vietnamese. Now, among these district chiefs, do you know which ones were arrested, whether it be before the major purges or during, and for which reasons were they arrested?
What I know is that following the 25th of May 1978, the people who had been working with the previous chiefs could not escape the situation. Only those who fled into the forest could escape the situation that occurred at the time.
Okay, alors...
Fine. Now I would like to look at two people in particular among these district chiefs. That is in Chlong district. The chief's name was Chom Sarat, and the chief of Pim Chiling district was Bo. And for this, I would like to provide to the witness document E3/2096, which is titled List of the Groups of Traitors in the East, dated 24 June 1977. Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to provide this document to the witness.
President, yes, please.
Alors, monsieur le témoin, sur la page...
Witness, on the page that I have, well, I opened the document and I stopped at the page titled Sector 21. In Khmer, the reference is 00006753. 6753, English, on page 5. 00182908. At number 1, at the top, we see Cham Sabat's name, who was the secretary of Chlong district, and it is mentioned that he was arrested. On another page in this same document, Khmer page 00006750, I think it's the second page, in fact, in this document. English 01190874. We see here a list of people who were arrested. And at number 5 in this list, we see Ben Chay listed, Chay, alias Cham Savat, who was the secretary of Chlong district. Witness, does this jog your memory, in particular with regard to the period when this district chief was arrested? Because this document is dated June 1977.
Thank you. I have just heard the name Pain Chai now, but Chom Sawat, yes, I heard of his name. He was the district chief of Chlong, but I do not know when he was arrested. Thank you.
Sur le même document.
In the same document, on the same pages, we also see the name of the chief of Pimchiliying district, Bo, and his full name is Chin, Chin, Ban, alias Bo. And he is listed as number 7 of the Khmer page 0006750, English 011908874. Do you maybe remember this period in 1977 during which Bo was arrested according to this document?
I know the individual by the name Bo, however, I do not know the month and the year when he was arrested. I cannot remember now. And I am not sure whether all of those people had been arrested back then. I do not remember it. President, you may proceed now, Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. One point of clarification in relation to the use of this document by the co-prosecutor. I believe that in the English and French version there is a page missing, and on the first page we understand that there's a list of people who were arrested, and then a list of people who were not arrested. And in the French version, as well as in the English version, if I'm correct, we do not see the Khmer page regarding the people who were arrested. So could this be clarified? Because I have a hard time here following the document that the co-prosecutor is using. I'm going to clarify this. Well, this document E3/2096, E3/2096 and 97, in Khmer indeed there is a second page after the cover page which lists the people who were arrested. There are 14 names on this page. Obviously, the French and English translations did not cover this page, but this page was translated later. So in English, there is a kind of addendum right now where this page was translated. And we can find this page at 011908745. And furthermore, it's not quite so that there is a list of people who were arrested and a list of people who were not arrested, because in the other pages listing the people in the zones and in the different sectors, there are sometimes, it is sometimes mentioned that this person was arrested. For example, in Sector 21, the two first names at English page 00182908, there's an annotation, an extra annotation, which states that Cham Savat and Bo were arrested. So there is an independent list on the one hand of people who were arrested, and sometimes in the normal list there is the mention that these people were arrested. Well, in order for things to be clear, says Counsel Guisset, we see a mention on the Khmer version I'm not saying this, it's the Khmer speaker who are saying this, and it said it's written at a different time. So was this mention therefore added later? So in the way the co-prosecutor is putting questions to the witness, maybe this element should be taken into account. To put an end to this discussion, there is an independent list of people who were arrested, and that covers the names that I just brought up with the witness. And now I would like to move on to another topic. Among the deputy...
President, please hold on. Judge Lavin, you have the floor now.
I apologize, but if I understand, there was an addendum in the English version to add the translation of page 2, and this addendum does not exist in the French version. Am I correct? If that is the case, could you then please inform ITU and request an extra translation so that we may have 3 versions that are perfectly aligned? Response, well, I didn't check as regards the French version, but I will do so. And if indeed it is necessary, we will make the request to have the page translated. Witness.
President, please hold on. You have the floor now. Counsel Kong Samon. Thank you, Mr. President. After my examination of the document in Khmer, there were 2 points in the document. One is the list of people who had already been arrested, and the list of people who had not yet been arrested. The list of some of the names in the list may not have been arrested, but they said they made a notation that those people were arrested. So the lists here were used for 2 different purposes.
Well, this is what I explained, may I now turn to another topic? You said right now, witness, that you do not remember if a certain number of cadres were arrested, or in any case, you do not remember the period when they were arrested. So now I would like to base myself on a statement you made before the OCIJ regarding people whom you're sure were arrested. This is at answer 48 of your WRI E3/5531. And you said the following. Before 25 May 1978, the head of Krochma district, named P.H.A., was arrested, as well as the deputy chief of Memut district, named Sam Un, and the deputy chief of Tramung district, named Chun, C-H-H-U-N, that is. So I will get back to Pa later, or rather right now. You also said at answer 56 regarding Pa that this happened at the end of 1976, that the head of Krochma district named Tapa was arrested. So my first question regarding Tapa, how did you know that he was arrested at the end of 1976?
Back then, those who were messengers of Krochma district were no longer seen. They usually took their chiefs to the meetings, but later on they were not seen any longer. Those who disappeared were thought that they had been already arrested, and we did not go to ask questions about their whereabouts, although we knew their family members, for example, wife or children. We were scared after knowing that they disappeared.
Did you know back then, in 1976, who within the East Zone would order this kind of arrest? Was this information that you were apprised of back then?
I have no knowledge of the orders or who ordered the arrest, and I myself have not seen the arrests.
And now, regarding other people whom you said were arrested before 25 May 1978, you mentioned Sam Eun, the deputy chief of Memut district, as well as Chun, the deputy chief of Tramom district. Do you know when these people were arrested? Was it in the months that preceded 25 May 1978, or was it even earlier in 76 or in 1977?
I know these two people, but I do not know the date of their arrests. In relation to Sam Eun had been arrested before the 25th of May 1978. It was because he used to come and fix the motorbike at Chong Ong Krong when I was working there.
Well, just to make sure that things are perfectly clear, as well as for the record, these two names, Sam Eun and Chu, appear on the document that I just used, E3/2096. But it is not stated that they were arrested back then. They are at number 11 and 12 on the list from Sector 21 at English page 00182908 and Khmer 00006753. Witness, now I would like to turn to another sector which is a bit further removed. It's Sector 23. And when you were working in the East Zone in Sector 21, did you ever hear about the fact that a great number of people from Region 23 were arrested in the weeks and months that preceded 25 May 1978? Did you hear about that?
I have never heard of it. Thank you.
Est-ce que vous connaissez?
Did you know the names of the secretary, the deputy secretary, or the members of the committee of Region 23 at the time?
Thank you. I do not know about that.
Je voudrais revenir un instant à...
I would like to come back for a moment to the metal production factory. Did you know GNUN, NJUN, Tramun, TRAMOEUN?
No, the name Ngun Tramun does not ring a bell. There was a Tramun. I know that person.
Je vais essayer de vous rafraîchir la mémoire.
I will try to refresh your memory by reading response 32, E3 bar 531. The question that was asked is as follows.
Témoin. Donc la question qu'on vous posait à l'époque,
So the question that was asked of you at the time was to know if there were Cham or Vietnamese people in your unit. And you responded, there were no Cham people, but there was a Vietnamese man named Nguyen, Nguon, Tramun, the head of the lathing section.
après 1975,
After 1975, he came to work for the lathing unit. Later on, he was arrested with Crouch, CHRAUCH. Yin Sophie, the security chairman of Sector 21, came to arrest him in person. And in answer 35, you added, before the arrest of Tramun and Shrove, Yin Sophie came to saw that the arrest order came from the upper level and that there should not be chaos in the unit. Morn and Krausch were accused of being Yon's KGB agents, Vietnamese head, Cambodian body, end quote. And finally, in response 37, you spoke of the suicide of Tramun by stabbing himself. Does this refresh your memory on what happened to Tramun in your factory?
Yes, sir, I recall that.
il y a un point que je voudrais éclaircir à ce propos.
There is a point that I'd like to clarify in this regard. This is to know if Tramun was Vietnamese, as you said, which means to me that he was of a Vietnamese nationality, or was he simply being accused of having a Vietnamese head and a Cambodian body? Could you please clarify this point?
He was Vietnamese. I refer to Nguyen Tra Mun.
Et à part ce cas de ce
And aside from this case of this Vietnamese man, did you learn at the time, was there a policy at the time which targeted arresting Vietnamese that could be found in the East Zone? Is this something that you heard about or not?
In general, starting from the time that the conflict started with the Vietnamese side, everyone knew that Democratic Cambodia had conflicts with Vietnam.
D'accord, mais est-ce qu'il...
All right. But in 1977 and 1978, were there already inmates who were Vietnamese or of Vietnamese nationality who had not gone to Vietnam but were still living in Cambodia? And I'm thinking of perhaps those who were married to Cambodian people. Had you heard that there were Vietnamese who had remained there? And given the conflict, what happened to them at that time?
I did not know which areas they lived. However, in my unit, there was a person who used to work in the laughing workshop. He was sent actually from a military unit to a civilian unit to work in that workshop.
Donc, est-ce que c'est bien de...
So is it indeed Tra Mun that you were talking about, the one who was arrested later?
Indeed, I refer to Tra Mun, who was transferred from a military unit to my civilian unit. And he was transferred to a laughing workshop in my civilian unit.
Alors, avant d'arriver au 25 mai...
So before getting to 25 May 1978, I have two or three other questions concerning your father, A Sao Pim. Between April 1975 and then 25 May 1978, had you ever heard your father strongly criticize, the policies expressed by the center of the party?
No, I did not hear him criticize the policy of the party. However, he used to tell me that his work colleagues in Sector 21, whom he used to train, and after the wave of arrest, no one ever saw their opinion from him anymore.
Avant le 25 mai...
Before the 25 of May 1978, when your father received orders or instructions from the center of the party, did he make an effort to respect these instructions and to implement them in the East Zone?
I did not understand about that, and I did not know which instructions he received and which he implemented. As his subordinate, my duty was to protect him, to also protect the leadership, and to go wherever he assigned me to.
Selon vos observations...
According to your comments, when you met with your father or even Sao Pim, were these people loyal to the party?
I think he was loyal. Even I was his son and his bodyguard, I had to be loyal to the party as well.
Tout à l'heure, vous avez dit que vous aviez reçu
Earlier, you said that you had sometimes received letters from Sao Pim signed by him so that you should know which merchandise you should be sending to Phnom Penh. I would like to submit a manuscript document, a handwritten document, Mr. President, signed by Pim, E3/1205. So this is a written document to Office 70 in 1977. With your permission, Mr. President, it was the 5th September 1977.
Yes, you may proceed.
Donc je ne vais pas m'attarder vraiment sur le fond.
I won't be going really into the substance, but can you please look at the signature on this document at the very bottom of the second page, I believe? And can you tell us if you recognize the signature?
This is the signature of the zone office chief named Pim, and it is not Pim's signature.
Donc, si je comprends bien,
Therefore, if I have understood correctly, the signature of Pim, P-E-A-M, and not that of Pim, P-H-I-M. I'm trying to translate Khmer, it's not easy.
Yes, the signature belongs to Comrade Pim, as it is stated on this document.
d'accord.
Very well. I also have another document which I would like to submit to the witness. E3/1036. This is a telegram addressed on 15 September 1975. Although in English there's an error that says it was the 15th of August, but it is the 15th of September in Khmer. So document E3/1036. Mr. President, can I submit this document to the witness?
Yes, you may.
Alors, je signale que, en tout cas dans la version française, on l'a...
So I'd like to note that in the French and Khmer versions at the very bottom of the page, before 15 September, there is a name, Comrade Pum, P-H-O-E-M. Witness this Pum here. Is this the chief of the East Zone, of the Eastern Sector, Sao Pim, or is this also Pim, P-E-A-M, the man you just spoke of?
The name here is Pim, who was chief of the East Zone. As for Pim, Pim was only the zone officer chief, and Pim was the senior leader in the East Zone. However, during the regime, they never use full names. They only use their first names, for example, Pim or Pim. They never use full name as such as a Sao Pim.
D'accord. Sur ce document, il y a
All right. There are two paragraphs I'd like to read to you from this document, and I'd like to ask you several questions about them. The first paragraph, to begin with, I will read it in English.
Monsieur le témoin, est-ce que vous m'écoutez?
Witness, are you listening to me?
So I quote the first paragraph of that document. We have received a telegram dated 15 September 1977 on Comrade Chia Sdeng, S-D-A-E-N-G, who had requested to meet Comrade Chan to discuss the cooperation on the issue of the border protection. We have already notified Comrade Chan at 24. Office 870, please notify Comrade Chies Deng about that matter. End of quote. Ici, il semble qu'on parle de votre père.
So, Comrade Chan, did you know this other Comrade Chia Zdang, who is mentioned in this telegram?
No, I did not know this person, and the person does not ring a bell to me. The name does not ring a bell to me.
Un autre paragraphe que je voudrais.
Another paragraph that I would like to read is paragraph 4.
English.
President, a witness, please listen to the question tentatively. You may need to consult with your duty counsel only when you believe that your response may incriminate you. And that is the reasons that you made a request. And also, duty counsel, your job here is to assist the witness if he cannot find the relevant excerpt from the document presented to him. And besides that, you should not discuss on any other matters with the client. You may proceed, Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
Donc je vais citer le paragraphe 4.
So I will now quote paragraph 4, witness, in English.
When I went to the northwest, Comrade Nim, N-H-I-M, requested a number of cadres. For the first batch, I have selected 10 cadre from the Pillar Full Rights members, the Youth League, and 1 person from the masses. If Comrade Nim requires more cadres at a later stage, we will provide more. Regarding this matter, we would like to seek additional opinion of Ankara. End of quote. On voit ici que
We see here that concerning cooperation with the Northwest, and particularly with Comrade Nim, Sao Pim is asking for the additional opinion of Office 870. Was it common for Sao Pim, for your father? For topics such as cooperation with other zones, to ask for the agreement or the opinion of the center of the party?
I did not know for sure about that. I also never saw such a letter.
Je vais en venir à un sujet.
I will come back to a subject which affects you more, the events of 25 May 1978. Can you tell us what you saw or heard of the events of 25 May 1978 in the East Zone? What happened in particular on that day?
On 25th May 1978, I experienced an event where workers in my unit in Chongkrong took a vehicle out to actually transport the workers to work along Road 73, that is the road near Pretiet, and from Pretiet to Bokche was the work sites that we planted vegetables. When they reached the junction of National Road near Chongkrong, there was a group of soldiers from the center. They stopped the vehicle and instructed the vehicle to return to the unit. That was the initial event. After that, I discussed the matter with Saw, the chief of the unit, and we said that if we were not allowed to work in our plantation, how could we feed ourselves? Then the chief could not communicate with other units. And finally, he assigned me to go to Suwon Market, where the East Zone office was located. That is where Tapim worked. So I took a shortcut, that is to travel behind the village, and I did not take the main road, so that I could make my journey to Suwon in order to ask people at the zone office. Then the people at the zone office said Pim was not there, as he had been called to a meeting last afternoon and did not return yet. Second, I could not go anywhere else. Even pregnant women who had to be sent to hospital to deliver their babies, they were not allowed to do so. As for other people who travel along National Road number 7, were stopped by soldiers from the center who stationed themselves along the road. And there were many such barracks near Suwon, and also they were present at Chongkrong village, in Pretiet village. Generally, they were stationed at various villages along National Road number 7. They also dug trenches, and as I said, they were there in order to counter the June's advancement. And by next morning, they arrested all people who were living or traveling along National Road number 7 regardless which units they worked, and only the trucks carrying rubber were allowed to pass through. They also confiscate weapons and store them in a pagoda. And this is all I know about the events that took place on that day.
Bon, là, il me reste assez peu de temps, ce qui fait que
I have very little time left, so I'm going to ask specific questions in order to cover the subject in the time resting. 25 May 1978, you said before the judge that you received a document from Sao Pim in the afternoon, and what did this letter say?
No, I did not receive it, but the chief named Saul told me that in the late afternoon of 25th May that Tapam wrote a letter to us to be vigilant and not to allow anyone to come to arrest us or to remove their weapons from us. And the Southham's letter also stated that it was a coup d'etat to overthrow the Cabinet Secretary and the Cabinet Deputy Secretary by the armed forces led by Son Sen. This is what my chief told me.
donc, le message disait
So the message said that you need to organize yourselves, to defend yourselves. Did you have the means at the factory to organize and defend yourselves? Were you armed?
Our units are composed of youths, and they were armed. Although rather we had weapons, but the weapons were stored in the warehouse and we were not armed. And only when the instructions were given, then they would be armed.
donc vous avez dit que
So you said that Sao Pim's letter indicated that it was Son Sen who was attempting to have a coup d'etat to overthrow the secretary and deputy secretary of the party. Did you or your unit or your chief of unit receive a letter from Pim in the hours or days that followed, giving you additional instructions?
In Southham's letter, based on the thought my unit chief told me, was to gather forces to counter the forces from the Center Army, and we should stay ground. And if we lacked any materials or ammunition or weapons, we had to contact Jake and Time. That was the content of that letter.
If I understood well, in the second letter, well, did I understand well? Was there one letter or two? Could you please clarify this?
from what my chief told me, there were 2 letters, but I myself was sure of only 1 letter. There was a second letter sent to the chief of the unit, that is to Seoul, that we should stop fighting. However, we had to hold ground, and that we should resist the arrest by the center soldiers. Comrade So told me that South Pum did not want us to fight back, because he heard the broadcast on the Democratic Cambodia radio that Pol Pot and Nun Chea were still alive, and that they had to go to Pochetong airport to receive a delegation from Burma. And upon hearing that, South Pum didn't want us to continue fighting, but we had to retain our forces, and that he would go to Phnom Penh to solve the problems. That was the content of the second letter that my unit chief told me about.
And in the end, did Sao Pim manage to travel to Phnom Penh and contact Pol Pot and Nun Chea? If he didn't manage to get to Phnom Penh, what prevented him? What prevented him from coming to Phnom Penh?
Whether Sao Pum arrived in Phnom Penh or arrived at other location, that information was not learned by me. I do not know either whether he encountered any obstacles on the way.
Est-ce que vous avez appris?
Did you learn if Sao Pim was later on accused of being a traitor?
Yes. There were helicopters and aeroplanes dropped leaflets in the East Zone, and in the leaflets it was said that Sao Pum was a traitor selling his hat to the Vietnamese. It was said in the leaflet that Sao Pum betrayed the country.
Votre père.
So your father was Sao Pim's deputy. Was he himself accused of being a traitor? Or on the contrary, was he used by the center during these events?
There was no name of my father in the leaflet. And at the time, my father remained a deputy chief of the zone, and one way later on became the chief of the zone.
Est-ce que votre père?
Is your father the only one? Because earlier you said that all of the cadres of the East Zone had been arrested during that occasion on the 25th of May 1978. But therefore, was your father the only one who remained in his job after 25 May 1978?
he remained to be the deputy chief of the zone.
Did he tell you why he was able to keep his job as the deputy chief of the zone?
Thank you. He never told me about that, and I never met him as well.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, could you quickly repeat your answer because we haven't heard the French translation? Thank you.
Thank you. He never told me about the reason you asked me. In the leaflet or pamphlets, there was the name of Von Wet, the secretary of the zone, and Chan, the deputy secretary of the zone, and that pamphlets were displayed in the kitchen of the cooperative. Thank you.
Avant la pause.
Before the break, one or two questions. When did you see your father for the last time? And do you know what happened to him later on?
Later on, I met him. I saw him in 1978 when the water receded. It was when he got on the ferry and then took the vehicle to Phnom Penh. I saw him and met him at the time. He did not say much, but he said that he had to go to Phnom Penh.
Est-ce que vous pourriez...
Can you tell us more or less how many weeks or months this took place before the Vietnamese arrived? So the major purchase took place on the 25th of May 1978, and you saw him after that. And the last time you saw your father was how much time more or less before the Vietnamese arrived in Cambodia?
I saw him the last time. I saw him perhaps 3 or 4 months before the 7th January of 1979.
Après, est-ce que vous...
After, do you know what happened to him? Did he disappear? Did you hear anything about his fate?
From that time onward, let alone seeing him or having heard of him, those who had gone with him in the vehicle, including my sibling, I know that there were 4 people in the vehicle at the time. One was my younger sibling. Two were the defense guards, had disappeared ever since. President, thank you, Mr. Witness. It is now time for the break. The chamber will take a short break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please assist the witness in the waiting room during the break time, and please invite him back into the courtroom together with his duty counsel at 3 p.m. The court is now in recess.